To those of you joining us today, thank you for watching the Woburn Spotlight. I'm your host, Tyler Gates, here to bring you some positivity by talking to those in town making big strides for the greater good. Today I'm fortunate to have with me a repeat guest, Senator Cindy Friedman. Senator Friedman, thanks for joining us again today.
Always happy to be here.
It's always fun to have you come by.
Thanks.
We're going to cover some ground today, but for anyone that hasn't watched the show or met you in person, do you mind just telling us a little bit about you and what brought you here?
I am the state senator for the 4th Middlesex, which includes Woburn, Arlington, Lexington, Billerica, and Burlington.
And you guys are covering a lot of ground. Yes.
Yeah.
A lot going on.
A lot going on. It's a busy summer, and going to be a busy fall, I think.
When we had you on in the spring, talked a lot about budgets, what that kind of looked like. You mind just catching us up to speed on maybe what's happened over the course of some of the year, and take it whatever direction you feel like you'd like to go?
Well, we did a FY20 budget. We increased education spending by a considerable amount. Lots of good funding came for substance use disorder, for behavioral health, and did a little better in Chapter 90 money.
A little better in Chapter 90?
Well, yeah, I think. Well, actually, I misspoke. Local aid, I think we did a little better than people were expecting, and we may be looking at doing some more Chapter 90. But I think it was a good budget. We got some money for Woburn for English language learners, so that was good. And I think things were pretty. I think it was a good budget, and it's nice to have money. Mm-hmm. Nice to be able to support programs that are really important to people in the Commonwealth.
Yes. Were there any small or big victories for yourself personally that you felt that were in there that you really were proud of?
Yes, I was quite proud of the work we did around Mass Health, which is our Medicaid program, and the pharmaceutical companies bringing pharmaceutical prices, trying to get control of those prices. And we gave authority for Mass Health to directly negotiate rebates with pharmaceutical companies. And if they couldn't do that, we gave them some tools to negotiate further with them. So I think it's the first time that we've given the authority to Mass Health to go out and negotiate, and I think we're going to see some good changes, and maybe changes that will affect the whole system.
Feels like steps in the right direction.
Feels like steps in the right direction, yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, so I think that was a big one, something that we worked really hard on.
Yeah, and I know you're running around all summer anyways. Yeah. But you said you're working on some senator tours right now. What does that look like?
So the Senate has something called Senate tours.
Senate tours.
Senate tours.
Oh my goodness.
And it's where senators invite other senators to their district, and have presentations, may do tours. And in fact, I just came from Newburyport in Amesbury with Senator DiZoglio, that learned a lot about the Merrimack River and the incredible importance it has to not only that district but to all of Massachusetts, and saw some really interesting new entrepreneurial development in Amesbury, people building solar windows that have basically solar panels in them, but that are clear, so you can see in and out.
Very cool.
But it was very cool. Lots of really cool things going on, and a great way to see all of the kind of entrepreneurial efforts that are going on in the Commonwealth. Very small businesses, people just starting up, but very exciting. Did a great tour of a microbrewery. So lots of different areas.
Different avenues.
But very interesting.
I'm sure the senators give you a different perspective on certain areas that you may have not otherwise have seen. Is that fair to say?
Yes,
you're going into these communities.
We're so focused on our districts and the needs of our districts, which we should be.
Right, absolutely.
Exactly. But it's really good to see what other senators' priorities are, and then you sort of also begin to see, hey, there's a connection here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have lots of small businesses. We have maybe in my district, the businesses, the tech businesses and biotech are a little bigger, but a lot of them started that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so you begin to see how we're all connected as a state. And you also understand why people fight so hard for their priorities.
Absolutely.
Which is a good thing for us to keep in mind.
Absolutely.
So.
And you said something earlier about being very busy into the fall. I think busy is kind of like the mantra of your life.
Yes.
But what's going to carry you into the fall? What are some of the initiatives that you and your team are working on?
Well, we're working on healthcare. We'll continue to work on healthcare. We're going to be looking at a pharmaceutical bill to help, again, address the high cost of pharmaceuticals that so many of our residents are dealing with. And
will that dovetail in kind of what you've already been doing, or is this a separate issue?
So that was very much specifically for Mass Health.
Okay.
What we're looking at is how do we bring relief to people with commercial insurance, both through the connector and through commercial insurance, perhaps through their employer. We're kind of limited in what we can do in terms of self-insured plans.
Okay.
Because that's federally controlled, but we're really trying hard to figure out how we bring those costs down and make those drugs that so many people depend on more accessible. So we're doing a lot of work in that area. I know the Senate and the House have been working on education funding, so we'll probably see something in that area. We've got the hands-free bill that I hear is getting very close between the House and the Senate. I think we'll hopefully be doing something around climate change. Maybe by the end of the year, we might see some bills coming out for that. So it's pretty, I know the Senate is very busy with these initiatives.
Certainly, and I know the hands-free was very close at the
Very
last session.
close,
It might have been just because it was so late at night that got kicked down the road, so I've heard.
But I think we'll probably see something. And I know there's going to be a supplemental budget to close out the year, and we may see, again, that's where we may see some more money for, things like Chapter 90, and hopefully the state has had a very good year. We have increased our rainy day fund.
Okay.
We're over $3 billion in our rainy day fund, which is really important. Hoping, I know the Senate Ways and Means chair wants to get to 4, and we'll see. But so money's going both into savings and into supporting really important programs.
Future initiatives as well as initiatives today.
You got to work today to build the future. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know you and your team, along with this, and I have spent a lot of time on the healthcare side of things and education.
Yep.
But I personally, I haven't heard us go into the Chapter 90 info too much. Do you mind just spending a few moments there, kind of what you're seeing or what might be coming down the pike?
Well, Chapter 90 money is named after the Mass General Law that it refers to, gives cities and towns money for infrastructure for their roads and so cities and towns are very interested in that money because it allows them to do to keep up their
projects.
roads. So I think what may happen is every year there's a Chapter 90 allocation that the governor makes.
Okay.
This may put more money into that, and that would mean there will be additional.
We're just looking at an allocation. I guess I was wondering what that looked like.
We're looking at an allocation, and cities and towns get to decide.
And then from there, they get to use those monies for their roadways
as they see fit. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks for spending some time there. What are you and your team personally? I know we've kind of reiterated this a few times. What's your focus on the fall of 2019 at this point?
It will be healthcare.
It will be healthcare.
It will be healthcare.
Do you mind elaborating a bit there for yourself, what you'll be doing?
Well, we're going to, as I said, do the pharma bill. We are also looking at some other areas of concern. Surprise billing is a big area.
Surprise billing?
Yeah, so surprise billing is when you have an insurer, you go to the hospital, you get a procedure, you might be under anesthesia, you come home and you get your bill, and in there is Dr. Smith at $4,000 because Dr. Smith was not in your network. You didn't know that, nobody told you about it, no one asked you about it, but you are now on the hook for that out-of-network
Surprise billing.
surprise billing.
Okay.
Big issue.
Yeah.
Especially if you're
Oh, I
under
felt it, and I know a lot of people that have, right?
Especially if you're under anesthesia, you don't really know
Surprise,
that
yeah.
Dr. Smith has come in.
Right, yeah.
So this is a big issue. So I think we will be looking at that. I know there's still work to be done on price variation between the top tier hospitals that are maybe academic teaching hospitals or hospitals that have been able to negotiate better rates, and the community hospitals. Big disparity. We need to ensure that we support our community hospitals and that we keep them viable, because that is where you save a lot of healthcare dollars.
Is it in the community side of things? Oh,
Sure, because a community hospital tends to be much less expensive than, say, one of the big teaching hospitals. And there are things that you can do at a community hospital, there are procedures you can get done that are every bit as good as going to a teaching hospital. But people tend to not see that because we are so focused on our teaching hospitals here in Massachusetts, like Mass General and the Brigham and the big and Tufts, the big hospitals.
certainly.
But there's money, it's a cost savings to be going to some of those more local hospitals to get a procedure that's very straightforward and, but there's a big price disparity in what they get reimbursed at and what maybe community hospitals get reimbursed at. Especially
I
when
see
that
what you're saying.
community hospital has a lot of Medicare and Medicaid patients, because those are set,
Yes.
right? They're
You
predetermined.
get what you get, yeah.
So that's a big issue in Massachusetts, and it's really making sure that the right health care is at the right place at the right time across the state.
Sounds easy, does I doubt it is, huh?
Yeah, it's like a base, what we did for what we called base closings, like how many bases do we need in terms of our armed services? Where are they? What are they doing? Are they serving a need? We should actually be looking at this the same way.
From a similar
Are
lens.
we sure that you have an emergency room within X amount of miles of your home? That's really easy for us because we're here in Woburn, and there's a lot of hospitals. You leave the greater Boston area, you start going out west. That's not true. The islands have one hospital, Cape Cod.
We do have care right in our backyard.
And we have a plethora of opportunities. So it's looking at those kinds of things in healthcare. So there's pharmaceuticals, there's price variation, there's surprise billing, and then there's mental health parity is another thing that we're working on, ensuring that that the law is followed and that mental health services and treatment is as easily available as med-surg.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a real decrease in workforce, and workforce is something that's really important, especially in the healthcare industry. And we're more and more facilities are having trouble finding people, and that will be a problem for access. So we care about workforce a lot.
What is that early education and all the way up through? Is that training? Is that
pretty much
retention? Where's the issue lie, or is there a couple of them?
Well, there's a couple of them. First, they're low salaries, and when you have a really good economy, people have choice, and there are people coming out of college who would love to do this kind of work, but they are saddled with debt, and so what they choose to do is to go into some kind of field where they can make money and pay that debt off. But that means they're not going into behavioral health, they're not going into our long-term care facilities, they're not going into early education because they can't afford it. It's really a financial decision.
It's a challenge to navigate.
That's right.
It definitely can be. One of my best friends in the world makes more money bartending than she can as a social worker.
And
so she's yet to make the transition.
That's right.
Right?
And that is a very sad statement.
It's tough.
Because we sure need her as a social worker.
Right, and I know that, and she
Yeah.
knows that, and she sees that, but
Yeah.
it really is a huge decision financially for her to
Yeah.
make that leap, because she knows she enjoys it. But I think it's
She wants to do the work.
yeah.
Home care, big issue with home
It's
care.
even tougher in there. It
Yep,
sounds like.
especially for seniors to get home care that they may be eligible for, there's not the workforce.
And I'm sure it's a challenge once you have the workforce, the turnover, right? I know seniors that either I work with or I've referred to in the community is just, if they don't see the same face every day, that can be a challenge.
That can be a challenge. And a
For
lot
quality.
of what we're seeing is a result of our immigration policies at the federal level, because people are getting more, they're more concerned about working. They're, even getting people with visas and getting people into the workforce is really hard. And
Is it?
a
Okay.
lot of that work has been very historically been done by immigrants and new immigrants, and they're wonderful at it, and they work hard, and but that pipeline is kind of being cut off because people are saying, I don't want to come because I'm not sure I'm welcome, or I may have to go back, or whatever. But that is very much affecting, especially home care, personal care attendants, people who serve the most vulnerable.
Now, how does somebody like yourself, or the Senate, or the House, or anybody in the really get into the workforce, right? If you see a need there, how do you help? Like, what angles do you approach?
Well, the way that we can help are in a couple ways.
Yeah.
The first we can provide money for job training.
Okay.
And ideally what you want to do is subsidize really effective job training. This is often what we do and have done in the construction industry.
Okay.
Where we have apprenticeships, and kids come out of school and they go through an apprenticeship or pre-apprenticeship, and then they get into the trades.
Mm-hmm.
Another very popular thing to do is loan forgiveness.
Okay.
So we can have, the state could have a loan forgiveness program that says if you go into the field of social work and you work for a public entity, or an entity that is doing public, is in the Medicaid or Medicaid space, we will forgive your loans for a certain amount of time, and that's very popular for people, because that allows people to say, okay, I can do this work.
There's a trade-off. They know
right.
It's carrot kind of at the end of the stick. We know if we stake this out, that will
and
be
it allows you to
rewarded.
do it.
Yeah,
because
right?
it takes the burden of some of the. But you really takes the burden off of that loan. But you need enough loan forgiveness to make it worthwhile, right? Because some of those loans are huge.
I'm sure there's trade-offs with all of it. That's why I'm glad I asked, because I was curious, right? If you see that need, how do you even begin to help there?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that a lot of people express what they feel the need is in this area to you. What are you hearing from some of the people in the community of, I know where you stand on some of your initiatives.
Yeah.
What are people talking about?
Everyone's talking about healthcare.
That's the popular topic. Okay.
Yeah, the popular topic is healthcare and then transportation.
What's the typical question or a comment revolving around
The
healthcare?
tea stinks.
Or transportation. We can skip over to transportation. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure I've heard that too.
Yeah. People are worried about, and not so, in some of my districts, people are very worried about property taxes, because that is how cities and towns are funding school renovations or the overrides, because of the difference between what they get from local aid and what they're able to generate locally. Some of my towns are lucky. I mean, they're very fortunate in that they have a strong commercial base. And that really, really helps.
Helps drive.
And it helps keep those residential property taxes down. I have other communities like Arlington, which has no growth potential, because it's a very small, very dense, small geographically.
I know what you mean, yeah.
And they have no room for growth, so they are dependent on their residential property taxes, and that is a huge burden when it comes to funding local government, building new schools.
You have quite a diversity
roads.
even within your
Yes.
area you serve. I hadn't
Sure.
even actually really sat down and thought about some of that diversity.
Yeah, we've got Burlington on
Yeah.
one side, which is one of the tech hubs
Incredibly
of the,
tech,
of the
and then
country.
Woburn, very
And then-
industrial
and
focused,
Woburn's
especially North
industrial
Woburn.
and good commercial.
yeah, absolutely. And
With
then
the
Arlington
malls,
residential.
and then you've got Arlington, which is completely residential, and you've got Lexington, which is a bit in the middle, and you have Billerica, which is building
Mm-hmm.
its commercial base,
Mhm.
around high tech and new companies coming in on that Route 3.
It really seems like a
corridor.
lot's happening around that Route 3 corridor as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
You got UMass Lowell here, and then you've got that tech corridor, and
Mhm.
so there's a lot of exciting things that are going on.
a lot of exciting stuff going on.
Yeah,
Well, we'll have to have you come back and update us on all this exciting stuff.
sure.
I know we're getting closer to the end of our time together. I always like to give you the floor. In closing, just anything that you'd like to talk about or talk to the residents about, prior to your closing.
Well, I just want to remind people that we are available, that you should go on to my website, cindyfriedman.org. If you want to contact me or talk about anything, 617-722-1432. That's my office number. You can mail me at cindy.friedman@masenate.gov. I always want to hear from constituents, and I want to say congratulations to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
On your wedding.
Yes,
And,
we got married just a couple of weeks ago, and it's been a very exciting summer. So thank
yeah,
you so much,
that's-
Senator Friedman.
That's great.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And thank you again for coming on. I know the Media Center always enjoys seeing you. I do too. And we'll
Great.
have you back this fall.
Thank you for having
And
me.
thank you. You're very welcome. And thank you for watching today's show with Senator Friedman. This is the Woburn Spotlight. I drew a blank. This is the Woburn Spotlight. See you again next time.